DA Federal Chairperson Hellen Zille sparked a Twitter debate on Sunday when she tweeted that South Africa now has more racist laws than under apartheid. Zille's comments followed after the DA lost a court bid to force the state to stop using broad-based black economic empowerment status, race, gender, age or disability when considering who gets COVID-19 aid. And of course, that is a story that has received a lot of reaction from within the party itself. John Steenhuisen distancing himself from that tweet, even though he says he does feel that the decision by the courts is further alienating a certain portion of the population of South Africa. We now know that 2 black DA senior members have officially laid a complaint with the Federal Legal Commission against that tweet by Hellen Zille. To talk to us more about what the implications of this are is political analyst Dumisani Tembe. Dumisani, good evening and thank you for your time tonight. Hellen Zille is not the first time she is in trouble with such tweets, right? She knows she's not supposed to tweet this way, but she does anyway. What does that tell us?
Well, good evening, Zule, and to the viewers. Look, I think the good thing about it is that she is consistent. She knows that she may be politically incorrect, but she's very consistent in her honesty. But it also tells us that within the Democratic Alliance, she embodies what is frequently called in African politics the big man syndrome. You know, those politicians within an organization that cannot necessarily be questioned or be taken to task. So her honesty about her attitude to the post-South Africa, to the post-94 South Africa, is not necessarily good for the DA, but she is a big woman syndrome of the DA.
The last time we saw senior black DA members take on Hellen Zille for a tweet, well, one of them is no longer in the party at this particular point. So the fact that there are 2 who have laid this complaint, what does this tell us? They're saying, well, we are doing this to follow the party processes and we'll now leave it to the party to decide what to do with this complaint.
Well, the bigger issue is not that what they have complained about. It's whether the DA is a home for black people. I think that's the bigger question. Because in addition to them lodging that formal complaint, where she actually sits in authority, an alternative question is, what are they doing in the DA? That's the bigger question. Are they imposing themselves? And the bigger question that all of this can say is the DA necessarily an alternative home for black people in general? If you can have the prime leader of the DA make such comments about apartheid, about the clerk, about the struggling heroes, it begs the question as to, in essence, who really belongs within the DA. And from one sitting in the DA is increasingly becoming a very right-wing conservative political party. And what Hellen Zille probably articulates, it may not necessarily be her only political view. She may be representing the conservative constituency within the DA, which is increasingly gaining momentum and dominance within the DA. So those that have complained, they should ask themselves whether that's where they belong.
There are 2 reasons or 2 things from what you read in the tweet that she's trying to do here. One is to say former President F.W. de Klerk is not being given enough recognition for dismantling apartheid. That's what she's saying. In the other hand, she is dismissing the ANC's contribution towards a democratic South Africa. What do you read into that strategy?
It's an absolute dishonesty. It's an absolute dishonesty. I think from one sitting, there's no doubt that the ANC and other liberation forces, they did not necessarily defeat the apartheid machinery in the military battlefield, but all these other activities that were happening, partly led by the ANC and other political parties, of making South Africa ungovernable, of putting pressure on international community to dethrone apartheid, and eventually what de Klerk did was to surrender and submit to the basic fact that the apartheid was increasingly becoming untenable in the Republic of South Africa, primarily because of the overwhelming, anti-apartheid pressures that were put upon, the National Party government. So it was not necessarily that de Klerk had a change of heart, a change of attitude, or he had a Damascus moment, so to speak. It was absolute pressure. And I think Hellen Zille hasn't been a journalist for a long time. They haven't captured some of these big events like the death of Sisi. She knows that very well. So I'm not sure why politically she will decide to speak with a dishonesty of that magnitude. But, as I'm saying to you, it's probably a reflection of her own attitude and some constituencies she represents, the attitude on the post-apartheid in South Africa. Perhaps it's a sense of disillusionment, but more than being factually incorrect, which she knows, I presume, she is just not happy with the post-94 SA.
Repeated offense this is. What does this tell us about this body called the Federal Legal Commission, or in fact just the disciplinary processes within the DA? We know the last time she was then forced to apologize and she left the party structures. Of course, she is now back and she got rid of the individual that forced her to apologize previously.
Well, it speaks to what some ages ago some Greek philosopher Plato said, that, for some people justice depends on who's the stronger party in that particular country organization. So as I said in the introduction, she's more of a big man syndrome within the DA. So which practically means justice within the DA depends on the strongest person within the organization. So don't be surprised if she's not censored at all or punished or suspended, because in all reflection, Hellen Zille is the DA.
It looks also as if she is ready to take on some of the black leaders in the party. I think she tweeted something about Van Dam, and she Pumzile Van Dam. She says, well, they asked her, what are the other leaders of the DA saying about this? And she says, well, they're at home enjoying the sea view and drinking tea. Taking a swipe, I suppose, at the two other runners in this race for party leadership.
If I'm really... This is what I keep saying, that the DA has been increasingly moving towards the right way. And that's the position in which the whole bulk of DA constituents went from the last election when they voted with the Freedom Front Plus. So frankly, the DA's real strategic positioning is to capture that hardcore white minority constituency. So she wouldn't bother too much about what, Van Dam, Pumzile Van Dam and other black leaders within the Democratic Alliance will say, primarily because the real positioning of the DA is not necessarily more concerned about the black constituencies. Black constituencies remain important to the extent that they vote for the DA. But the strategic thrust of the DA is to capture and sustain, the white constituency interest. So even if she says these things, even if she goes against what some of the feelings and attitudes of black leaders in the DA, it's primarily because she is more interested in grabbing the core of that white constituency, which has got right-wing attitude, rather than what in my mind would have said is a one South Africa for all approach.
So you would say she's, in a sense, in a way, responding to that report that was put together by Tony Leon and a group of others that looked at the party's performance in the last election, and it says really the real reason why they did so dismally was because they lost that white vote to Freedom Front Plus.
This is why I keep saying that Hellen Zille is very consistent. And that personally, that's what I like about her. Whether I disagree with her on factual misrepresentation of issues, but she is very consistent. And the post-election approach of the DA is to capture that market, to recapture it from the Freedom Front. So they can't be seen to be nursing, the feelings of the pro-transformation black elite within the DA. They are more interested in that. So she will keep articulating this thing because it's in line with the strategic approach of recapturing the essence of that grouping.
Does this strengthen the Democratic Alliance as the official opposition, or does it weaken it?
It weakens it numerically, but in terms of what the DA, in terms of the real economic power in this country lies, it does not necessarily affect the DA. But it might affect it in terms of the numbers. But sometimes you don't need the numbers, you need quality. So I suppose that's where the focus is. And maybe the question then becomes, would a party like the EFF be able to milk this situation and then leapfrog into the official opposition in the next election? And if the DA believes, if Hellen Zille believes that they are nowhere to being dethroned by the EFF from being the official opposition, then definitely she has no reason to nurse the feelings of the black leadership within the DA, because in that position, as an official opposition, it remains comfortable.
Park the black leadership and focus on the interim leader, John Steinhuisen, and him distancing himself from the tweet and saying, well, we'll send this tweet in to the party structures for debate. How does that affect his chance of taking that position permanently?
Perhaps John Steinhuisen is the most affected by this tweet, negatively so, because in the last few or since the beginning of the lockdown, he has been trying to affirm and position himself as the de facto, the proper leader of the DA, as somebody who is in charge. Now, when Hellen Zille comes out and makes this comment, then it hurts him, because suddenly we all look upon his leadership to say that, look, we need to do something about this incorrect representation of a painful history. So he's on the one side, he has to affirm himself, but he also needs the support and endorsement of Hellen Zille, so he can't necessarily come up very vicious against her. So he's going to play this dilly-dally politics. There's nothing that needs to be debated here when I'm saying. There's absolutely nothing which is debatable from what Hellen Zille said. She's factually incorrect. She is wrong. She's dishonest in her presentation of this history. That's possibly what a very firm leader would have said if John Steinhuisen was dead. But he wants that position with all his heart, and for that to happen, he has to appease those that must vote for him without necessarily seem to be antagonistic to the most powerful person within the DA.
Political analyst Dumisani Tembe, appreciate your time tonight.